That's 18 months ago. 18 months ago. Someone is setting fires all over Maui. So you can only ask yourself two questions after that performance from Max Holloway. One is, how good does it feel that he came through for the people of Hawaii, you know? And how happy should you feel for Max Holloway given the stakes of that fight when he puts Hawaii on his back, given what's going on over there? And then the second question is he going to stay at 145 pounds, or is he going to go to 155 pounds? And I think the consensus, if you are a student of the sport like all of us, is he's got to move up. He's got to move up. There are a lot of incredible fights at 55, and the bottom line is his time's up at 45. He's still in his prime. He is still in his prime. The guy's incredible, man. That performance, he's incredible. And he's still in the prime of his career, and he's already fought Volkanovski 3 times. Volkanovski's not going anywhere, man. Volkanovski's not going anywhere. Now, maybe if Volkanovski is seriously going to move up to 155 and like do it for real, like he does, if he's going to do it, but obviously Islam's fighting Charles Oliveira, so like he's got to go up. He's got to go up, man. Like Max has got to go up because again, I mean, give me that Ilia Topuria fight at 45 against Max Holloway. But nonetheless, if you look at the landscape at 55, Max Holloway is a fantastic fit into that weight class. Now, there are a bunch of monsters up there, of course, obviously. But he matches up pretty well against them, dude. And when he fought, I know every time that you talk about him going to 55 and people, at least people default, they're like, well, he went up to 55 and Dustin Poirier beat him. It's like, yeah, but have you watched that fight? I mean, first of all, if you watch that fight, and especially now, where since then, that's when he won, that's when Dustin won the interim title. And since then, you really understand how good Dustin Poirier is. At the time, it was kind of like, okay, Dustin's like a top 5 guy, and he, Max lost to him. But now, like Dustin was creme de la creme of 55. He's an exceptional fighter. And that was an incredibly close fight. And also, listen, dude, Holloway is better than he was then. Think about this, dude. You want to know who Holloway should fight? Holloway should fight Justin Gaethje for the BMF belt. Now, if you agree that they should fight for the BMF belt, why don't you go ahead and like this video right now, comment on the video, and subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet. You want to see that fight. How about that, son? How about Holloway versus Gaethje for BMF? Right? That would be so bananas, dude. That would be such a sick fight. I love that fight. So anyway, I think that he should go to 55. I think it's a common sense move. And anyway, we're going to talk about everything Max Holloway in a second here. And if you have not subscribed to the channel, I would appreciate it if you went ahead and did that. We're going to talk about a bunch of stuff here. So yeah, we're going to talk about the Maui fires. Found out some very concerning things about that. And normally that would go behind the paywall. But in this case, it's going here because I just want to talk about it in this video because it's relevant to Max Holloway's performance. And also, I just realized that to join members only, if you do it on iOS, you will not see the button. Like normally it's if you're on a computer, it'll say subscribe and join. Okay, if you're on I think on Droid it does also, but on iOS the join is not there. So you would have to go into the link there's a link in the description of every single video. Or just go to a computer and you'll see the join button. And I normally do Jesse on Everything stuff in there where I talk about every other thing except for fights, etc. And then I do some fight stuff also. But in this case, I really think that this is relevant to this entire event and Max Holloway's performance. So I'm going to talk about it here. And I found, like I said, some pretty interesting things. So Max Holloway comes through with the heroic victory. And Korean Zombie goes out like an absolute hero also in what is now his swan song retirement fight. How could you possibly end your career better if you're the Korean Zombie than in that moment right there? Oh, well, he could have won the championship and then blah, blah, blah. Honestly, yeah, maybe. But if you're not going to end on a championship, how better to go out than absolutely swinging for the fences against Max Holloway, pushing him to the brink, and then getting starched. You know what I mean? Going out on your shield like an absolute killer. His entrance was insane. The entire crowd is singing Zombie. And they're in Singapore. You know? They're in Singapore. Singing a song by an, I think they're Irish, right? The Cranberries? I don't know, man. That was pretty unbelievable. And Max Holloway's performance, given the context of what he was fighting for, and I'm trying to think of how to structure this video because, in preparation for a few things, I've been looking at a lot of stuff related to the Maui fires, which I'll talk about later. But like, after really kind of digging in a little bit deeper into what happened over there and what people are dealing with and some of the stories, I'm just like, man. And Max Holloway. Like Hawaii is a different culture over there. You know what I mean? It's not like, I'm doing it for, like, if a bunch of people's houses burned in Oregon, and you're like, I'm doing it for Oregon. If you're from Oregon, and certainly there are plenty of people from Oregon who would do that. And that's probably a bad example. I apologize, Chael. It's probably, if it was Chael, it would be exactly the same. So let's say, I don't know, California. It's obviously not that. But, whatever, pick a state, dude. New Mexico, and there was a bunch of wildfires, and they're like, we're doing it for New Mexico. It hits different when it's Hawaii. There's like a really, really big in-group culture in Hawaii where if you're a local that grew up there and you're Hawaiian, it's like they're really, really tight, and they really genuinely have each other's backs when it comes to that stuff, probably from a not so distant past that anyway. And so when Max Holloway says, I'm doing this for the victims of Maui, I'm doing this with Hawaii on my back, like, what kind of pressure that is for him to win. You know what I mean? Like, it's big because he's doing what he can. I'm sure that I would bet my life he's out there helping. By the way, shout to Floyd Mayweather, who donated $1 million to the effort out in Maui, which apparently is more than the federal government can do, But anyway, we'll talk more about that later in the video because I did some research and found some pretty disturbing facts about the wildfires there. And there's a lot of other wildfires going on. And so I'm going to use this video as an excuse to kind of discuss that topic also. So let's just talk about the fight a little bit here. So Korean Zombie has nuclear power, and I realize, he's retiring. He thinks that it's time to hang it up, and he retired in Asia and Singapore to a very, very raucous crowd. You're going to be hard pressed to find a better entrance than that and a better, outro than what he had. But just in terms of watching him fight and looking at his skills, I'm like, dude, he's good, man. Like, he lost to Max Holloway. If it's not for Volkanovski, Max Holloway has never, like, he has just run through the entire division 4 times. He is Volkanovski if Volkanovski's not there. You know what I mean? It's like Daniel Cormier and John Jones. There just happens to be someone in the same era. Then the thing is, their eras actually overlapped like this. Like, Max had his time, defend. And he never fell off. It's just Volkanovski kind of leapfrogged him. He's the number 1 pound for pound in the world. And so I don't necessarily think that Zombie's skills have lacked. He looked great. And those shots that he was throwing, dude, I know Max Holloway has a granite chin, but dude, if he gets caught clean with one of those shots that Zombie's throwing, he's going down, son. That's just bottom line. He's going down if he gets caught with one of those. And so, I don't know, man. Like, I thought he went out on Shield. I thought it was a great fight. I think Max Holloway showed that his MMA boxing is just unbelievably awesome. It really is. I've realized I don't know how else to discuss these like facets of MMA skills, right? Like, it's like when people go, Nate Diaz has always had great boxing, or you're like, this guy's got great boxing. It's like he has fantastic MMA boxing. And I just feel like we need to start saying those things since now you have these MMA guys going over into boxing and losing, and then people think they're like, oh, well, I guess MMA guys don't really have very good boxing. It's like, dude, they have great, phenomenal MMA boxing. It's not the same thing. It's absolutely not the same thing. I mean, think about like Anthony Smith today, perfect example. He goes out against Ryan Spann, and in the first round, he literally fought Muay Thai. Straight up Muay Thai. Knee up, absolutely pure Muay Thai. Now, why do you not see people do that normally in MMA? It's because they're concerned about getting taken down. Okay? Muay Thai, traditional Muay Thai, you have to adjust it to MMA because you'll just get taken down if you stand the way that you guys can't even see my leg, but you know what I mean? And so he knows Ryan Spann's not going to take him down at all. He triangled him last time. So he can just do a pure Muay Thai stance. And it's like, and again, in boxing, if you go in there just straight up boxing, boxing stance, like Canelo or anybody who's traditional boxing, it's not going to translate right. And the same thing, MMA boxing does not translate exactly to regular boxing either. There's too many other factors. Everything has to kind of mesh to the sport. But in terms of MMA boxing, I don't know who has better than Max Holloway. I mean, if you just look at his career, he's so accurate, dude. He's so accurate. He's so good at just kind of deflecting shots, slipping shots. That's the other thing. People are like, God, his chin is incredible. It is, but he also is incredible at minimizing the damage on shots. He rolls really well. I mean, anybody who is slipping and countering as effectively as he does, I mean, you're talking about, the whole goal of a slip and counter is you want to have their fist get within a millimeter, it ends and you're 1 millimeter out so that you can come right back over the top and land your shot. If you do it perfect, they miss by a millimeter. So of course you're going to get hit with shots, but he is just fantastic at it. And he lands incredible. I mean, it was just awesome. And that last exchange, incredible. And he starches him like that with Hawaii on his back. Phenomenal. So that's what I have to say on the fight. And now we're going to talk about Miami fires. What? Maui fires. So right out of the gate, who do you think started the Maui fires? That's something that I wanted to ask everybody. Who do you think started them? How do you think they started? Because I found some interesting information that kind of points in the direction that I always suspect when things like this happen. And I come from California, where there have been outlandish wildfires where I was positive that it was arson. Okay. And check this out. So that's from, that's 18 months ago. 18 months ago. Someone is setting fires all over Maui. That's 18 months ago. Now listen, do I know does that necessarily mean that someone lit all the fires on Maui this time? No. But it's very notable, I would say, given that the entire island, the whole Lahaina island side of the island just. And 18 months ago, you have suspected arson, right? And they caught these 3 people. I'm not really 100% sure what ended up happening with them. But it seems extraordinarily notable. And I'll tell you again, when I lived in California, I'm not sure exactly what year this was. I think it was probably either 2018 or 2019, which was one of those 2 years. I think it was 2019 actually, was so insane for wildfires that it just made no sense. Where it was like, this makes no sense. And I always suspected it was arson because I knew the story about the Southern California wildfires that were going on for a decade. And then it turned out that there was this one guy who was a crazy fire chief, I think he was actually an arson investigator, and he was lighting all these fires. He was he's a pyromaniac, and he would light these fires and he'd just watch, and then he'd be the one to go investigate them. It's like the movie Backdraft, but in real life. And in 2019, when there's constant fires, and you understand that the whole world is on fire right now. Seriously, like Canada is on fire, was on fire literally everywhere. I don't know if it's better now or if it's still going on, but it was on fire everywhere. It may still be. I have no idea. And then Hawaii's on fire everywhere, and then Europe everywhere on fire. Like just there's fires everywhere. Okay, but going back to California, where I really got convinced that we're talking, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, 99.9% that there's someone lighting it or lighting these fires is there was such a massive fire going on in Northern California. It was all over the place. Like I'm talking everywhere. Okay. Everywhere. And the air quality was so bad that Gabrielle and I were like, we got it, dude. Well, I mean, not me. Gabrielle's more concerned about air, but she's like, we need to just get out of the Bay Area. It's that bad. And it was terrible. Like, I mean, just choking on the smoke. And so we get in the car and so we're going to go down to Southern California to her mom's, which is in Palm Desert. Okay. It's in the middle of the desert. Wildfires, not so much there because there's nothing to burn. It's all desert. But then on the way down, right, we're paying attention to where the fires are because there's smoke everywhere. There were fires literally stretching from the top of California all the way down to the bottom of California. I'm like, how is this possible? How is this possible? How is this possible? And not to mention that this was like the climax of what had been this building thing where there were just wildfire after wildfire after wildfire after wildfire. And then all of a sudden this one weekend, it's every single thing in the entire state's on fire. I'm like, whoever's doing this is their Magnus, their Magnus opus or whatever. This is their masterpiece. They are painting their masterpiece right now. They keep getting away with it. You know, it was when they had the Chico fires up in Paradise where they burned everything out. It's like they are going into the forest. They're lighting fires. They're on a dirt bike probably, and they just get out of there, dude. You know, by the time it turns into a real, raging fire, they're long gone. And they're just doing, and this one, I just knew it in my gut. I'm like, this person just went all the way up and down California, doing it everywhere. He wanted to watch the entire state burn, whoever this person was, or people. You know, in that case, I think it's just like one or two, maybe partners like arsonists they just wanted to watch the world burn. That's what I think was going on in California at the time. This feels a lot more suspect to me. It just does, dude. Like this feels incredibly, incredibly suspect. You got these weird situations where you got like the police chief in Maui is the same guy who was the police chief in Vegas when that mass shooting happened where the guy was shooting from the Mandalay Bay at the country concert. That just seems very weird to me. I mean, maybe that's just coincidence. But there are all these stories about people being, I don't know, man. People being blocked from being able to leave. People being blocked from, like, there's a whole group of people that are like, the only reason that we survived is because we refused to listen to the authorities who were not letting us drive down this road. And we were like, we're going to die, man. And so they did anyway, and they survived, and the people who listened died. Now, that could just be total incompetence. I don't really know why you'd want to kill people, unless you're after their land, since that is very clearly what's happening right now. There's a land grab. And what are people going to do? They've lost everything. They have to sell. I mean, maybe if they have a bunch of money saved, but if they don't, if they're just regular folks that have a house and a business and it all burned, what are they going to do? You have suspect stuff like this, right? The Maui utility company, they may have compromised evidence in the fire probe. Oh, no way. No way. But you know what? This seems like a red herring to me, and I'll tell you exactly why. So the reason I don't trust this at all is because it doesn't make any sense, okay? When they say that the Hawaiian Electric, they may have destroyed evidence or they're talking about in this article. What they're talking about is they're talking about them removing infrastructure that may, might prove there's the implication being it might prove that that they started the fires, right? So they say they hauled away fallen poles and power lines and transformers, conductors, and other equipment from near a Lahaina substation starting around August 12th. Okay, so they hauled that stuff away. Okay, well, you know what? First of all, have you guys seen those fires? Have you seen the devastation? Okay, like telephone pole. You're telling me that there were all these like intact telephone poles, and you're telling me that the infrastructure after going through that fire, it's like, oh yeah, we need to get that stuff out of there, because definitely you'd be able to see that that's how the fire started. You're like, how on earth would you be able to tell that that's how the fire started after the fires have burned those things and every other thing around there? It just seems very weird to me. You know what I mean? It just seems very weird. I mean, maybe there's a down power line and that's how it's just, again, I always suspect arson with these things, because I just think it's such a seductive thing that people can just light these fires in the middle of nowhere and just watch the world burn. Or, hypothetically, if there was a great reset going on and people wanted to buy up specific parts of land and then build these, 15-minute cities or whatever, for whatever reason they want to do whatever, this would be an easy way to get the most desirable real estate in the world, right? Like if you're gonna cook the whole world, right? Like if you're gonna break the world on purpose, hypothetically, let's just say you're gonna just break the whole world. Okay, the entire Western civilization, you're gonna break it. Well, what's a good option to for what you do during that period? If you're an incredibly wealthy elite person, maybe get an island. Maybe get all of you onto an island that's very challenging to get to for people. You know how hard it is to get to Hawaii? And then you have very strict guidelines for who can come in and who can come out. Safe. You want to know what that sounds like? Safe. Sounds like paradise. You can be in paradise while you break the world. So if there is some kind of conspiracy behind the Maui stuff, that's my guess of why. They want to buy up all that real estate and they want to post up there, build one of their 15-minute cities, and watch the world proverbially burn. Some really burn, some just metaphorically burn. And they'll just post up while they remake the world, break everything, break every single thing, break the monetary system, break everything. And then they're like, okay, well, we can fix everything. It's just, digital dollar, digital IDs, mandates of things, Anyway. I mean, this is what Max Holloway was fighting for in this fight. You know what I mean?
Well, a good 9 of us. We meet there and we just notice that we're at a dead end. We're at a dead end and we're just standing there. We have our backs to this building. And we're looking at each other and we're like, my son was like, oh, Mom, is this it? And I mean, what do you tell your kids? And I told my kids, if it is, my husband told him if it is, thank you, Lord. Thank you, God. Thank you for my family.
I don't know how that story hits for you guys, but what it does for me as a person who has kids and can imagine that situation is, the idea of having to answer my children, is this it? And I can't lie to them. This might be like my kids having to confront death by burning. I'm right there and there's nothing I can do to help them. I can't protect them. They know it. I know it. There's nothing I can do. And this family got out, but a lot of them didn't, dude. And it's just so crazy to actually think about that. That's the end for them. The facing down death with a total inability to protect your children and your wife. You're going to burn to death. And you know it. And they know it. It's like, man. Because for kids, every scary thing that they can come up with in their mind, up into a certain age, they're like, well, my daddy will come get me. My daddy will protect me. Because you instill that in them. They talk about something they're afraid of, you're like, I would come get you. I wouldn't let that happen. And then to have the end of the story be the kid's realization that, like, you can't save them. And you know you can't do anything. And you know, like, dude, I'll get burned to death 100 times so that my kids don't have to. And just to know everybody was going to go out like that is like, it's just makes me physically ill. It really does, dude. It makes me physically ill to think about. And so Hawaiian culture, they got a lot of, like, that's a tight unit out there. And so Max Holloway, he's fighting for those guys. He's fighting for those families. And that doesn't even bring into play the people who lost everything in the fires, like every single thing. Lost their homes, lost their businesses, lost all their possessions. Most of them probably lost friends and family also. So there was a lot of weight on Max Holloway going into this fight. And he showed out. It's all very suspect. This is actually probably as much as I can say about this on this video. If you want to see my real thoughts on this, I am for sure going to put them on the in the members only section. So, like I said, you can join that. There's a join button if you go on the computer. If not, if you have iOS, so an iPhone, just go to the description in any of my videos and you'll see become a member, and there's a button there to do it. So anyway, that's probably enough. Love you guys.